somebody will ask you to do something and they say, well, that's not my job.
Or that's outside of my job description.
Exactly.
And now,
Aye.
I'm the captain now.
coming to you from the K2 studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's hitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Kristine Show.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. And I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 165 of the Kris and Kristine Show.
What? We are back in the saddle again, baby.
We are. It has been a hot minute or 10 because it is hashtag wedding season, and I've been on the road, and we have just completed back-to-back 4 weddings. Yes, 4 weddings in 3 weeks. It has been, it's been quite a journey, Kris.
Just so we're clear, we didn't get married 4 times. You actually took care of 4 different weddings for 4 different couples.
Yes, and by taking care of, you mean producing. So, one we did florals for, one we did florals and wedding planning. Another one was a multi-day wedding, and we did florals and planning and all of the styling. And I just finished today at like 11 a.m. day 3 of a 3-day wedding weekend for my clients, where we did full service planning here in San Diego. It has been quite the wedding season for sure. We went and celebrated afterwards with brunch and mimosas, and I came back and took a 3-hour nap.
That's what happens when you drink mimosas in the middle of the day. And
I know.
I was thinking about drinking some too. I saw the platter of the multiple drink platter they have.
It's a mini flight of mimosas.
Oh, that looks so good. As the server walked around the restaurant with them, like, I should get one of those. And I'm like, you know what? I'll probably just lay low on the booze in the middle of the day on Sunday.
Well, I have worked just nonstop for the past couple of weeks, and you've been holding down the fort. And I was actually on the road traveling for 10 days for 3 of those weddings, and got back on last Monday, at like 1 a.m. So Sunday night / Monday morning, and went right into full work week, and then another week of wedding planning. And so it's so nice to just calm down and relax and drink a mimosa.
I know.
I know I'm yawning right now.
Yeah. Wow. You've had a busy, last month or two, however long it's been. I've been busy too. As you record this, we just had a spring break here in San Diego. The kids were out of school. I was out of school, or actually out of work.
Out of work,
Yeah,
but not like you got fired, but like you were on vacation.
No, I always try to plan my vacations centered around the kids' vacation. So in the event I want to do something with them while they're off and I'm off, we can do that. Like summer, and this time it actually happened to be spring break. I was off a full week. They were off. And I was kind of figuring out what I want to do with the kids. So I said, you know what? I know the kids love theme parks. They love going out and doing things. I'm like, you know what? Why don't we go up to LA and go to Knott's Berry Farm for the Knott's Berry Farm Boysenberry Festival?
Oh, I totally forgot you took them to that. Yeah. So you took both of the boys, and did anything go wrong?
Well, before everything went wrong, things did go right. We did get up there, and I bought the tickets online. So you do get like free. When you buy the tickets online, it's a package where you get parking, entrance to the park, and 3 samples of all these multiple berry food themed stations. You see, Knott's Berry Farm is famous for their boysenberries. And
didn't you say they invented them?
I think they did. Yeah, they invented the actual boysenberry. I think if you have any version of a boysenberry anywhere in the world, the roots of it all come from Knott's Berry Farm.
Not the amusement park itself, but like the berry farm, like
correct. Yeah,
the producers that then make the jam and the jelly, which is what Knott's is famous for.
Correct. And during their food festival, every single thing, they have all these crazy food dishes, all, of course, boysenberry infused food.
I love boysenberry. It's so good.
It's like a combination of a raspberry and maybe a blackberry.
And a little bit of blueberry, but not the shape of a blueberry, but it's so good.
It is. It's really good. So
they're very sweet.
They are. And so everything they had there had boysenberry in it. The first time we went to go eat was mac and cheese with like buffalo chicken with a boysenberry drizzle all over it. I had that. It was okay.
And that's like, okay.
I'm not a big mac and cheese fan though.
It's like Buddy the Elf. Like, hold on, let me have like mac and cheese with syrup on it. Like, isn't that disgusting?
Well, they made it work though. And then and the kids had later, we had boysenberry milkshakes. Those are always good because who doesn't love a good milkshake, especially a boysenberry one? And then here's a kicker. The ones that Mason and I got had a physical donut in the milkshake, a big donut like sticking out the top of the milkshake. And we ate those. And of course, later we had boysenberry stuff. The kids had boysenberry infused. No, it was boysenberry like barbecue sauce with boysenberry in it for chicken wings. Of course, Mason didn't like that. He had to pick all the wipe it off with a napkin because he likes his his wings with nose. I know, he's so dramatic. So we rode the rides, and Jacob is all about riding the roller coasters. And Mason's like, they're fun. I'll just go hang out with Jacob because he's my bigger brother, and I'll just follow him around.
Yeah.
So the first thing they do is they ride a real crazy ride. They ride this new one called Hang Time, and it goes upside down like 8 times.
Okay, hold on. Pause in this story because you had all of this food in their stomach.
Yeah.
And then you, as dad of the year, send them on all of these roller coasters where they're flipping upside down, and you fully expected for it to be totally fine?
I thought so. So Mason rides that ride.
Hold on. For all of the parents listening out there, can you just like see the potential for what's going to happen in this day that Kris has designed for the boys?
So ride after ride after ride, we start having so much fun riding the rides. And I can't do the crazy loops anymore. I used to be able to, but I'm getting too old for that stuff. So there is one roller coaster I really like there. It's called Ghost Rider. And it's a wooden roller coaster. In fact, I think if you Google like top 10 wooden roller coasters in the world, it comes up on the list.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of reminds me of the one at Belmont Park down by the Mission Beach, but it's like 3 times as big. So if you can imagine the Belmont Park roller coaster, but 3 times as big and a lot smoother because the Belmont one's really rough. I think it's old.
It's like jerky, like.
Yeah. This one's very smooth. So anyways, Mason rode that and he said he loved it. This is so much fun. I love this. And then Jacob's like, let's go ride Silver Bullet. Now,
what's Silver Bullet?
Silver Bullet is a hanging inverted roller coaster. It's the one where you sit and your seats are hanging, your feet are dangling.
Oh, my word.
But it does loops and twists and corkscrews and all that crazy stuff. And Jacob.
So kind of more like Ninja at Six Flags?
Yeah, but without the floor. So your feet are dangling and you do loops and stuff like that.
Yeah, Ninja, you're dangling.
No, that's Batman you're thinking of. But
okay.
But it's a design of a roller coaster. They've lots of theme parks have this design of a roller coaster, and they have one there too. It's called Silver Bullet. I've been on it before, and the last time I went on it with Jacob about a few months back, I got kind of sick, so I'm like, I don't want to do this. You kids go do it, right?
I kind of got sick, but you guys go. You've had 17,000 calories, but you go.
Yeah, you guys enjoy this one. So as I watch them on the ride, and I see him get off, Mason's like, oh no, he's coming down the stairs because it's kind of an elevated platform. You come down these stairs to where I'm sitting on the ground by this little, these bushes, kind of like a sidewalk.
And he already rode it?
Yeah, he just rode it. He comes down. He's like,
did he look pale?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not feeling well. And I'm like, what's wrong, Mason? That ride, I just can't do it. I can't do those kind of rides. He's like, I'm doing it no more. And he was like, laid down, and he's like, I think I'm gonna throw up. And I'm like, Mason, are you sure? He's out. I'm gonna lay down. So he lays down on like the sidewalk. It's like the brick platform that goes from sidewalk, and there's a planter. It's like a big bushy planter, and he's laying on the sidewalk on the step between the sidewalk and the bushes. There's like a little elevated planter thing.
Sure, I get it.
So he's laying on that, and he's like leaning over into like the bushes area.
Okay, I don't want details. Needless to say, Mason's samples did not stay in his stomach, and I get a panic text from you. It's like, Mason says he doesn't feel good. Mason's throwing up. And I'm like, well, what do you expect? First of all, you fed him like all these different rich foods that are milky, milky, milky. And then let's send him upside down and sideways and, probably probably didn't have enough water, so he may have been slightly dehydrated.
That's possible.
Yeah, and then, then he's miserable for the rest of the day. And then Jacob's like, this little baby. Ugh.
I know Jacob wanted to be all go on the roller coasters. And I think Mason gets motion sickness. Like, I think I do too now, but he really does. I think when you go from like the Disneyland style of roller coaster to like a real roller coaster, it's a big difference. And especially when you're getting knocked upside down like that Silver Bullet. At one point on the ride, you literally have no idea where you're going, what's up, what's down. You're just being shaken all around. And it really makes you very nauseous when you get off the thing. You just like, I literally was like, whoa, I can't do this kind of ride anymore. It's just too much.
Well, they went and you guys had fun, and they were probably super excited to be able to go somewhere fun on spring break. And then y'all came back here, you went back to work, and that was several weeks ago already. And what did you all do while I was out of town?
Well, we went to Belmont Park. I took Jacob over there and Mason over.
And what is Belmont Park for those that are listening?
Yes, Belmont Park is a beachside amusement park. I forget who actually owns it now, but it's in Mission Beach, California, San Diego, right there on the ocean. In fact, little fun fact about the Mission Beach Belmont Park roller coaster is that it actually burnt down many, many years ago. The roller coaster, I think next year, is coming up on its 100th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So I told Jacob.
And it's like one of those like wooden ones. Is that one pretty jerky? Because I've not been on it.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't been on it? Oh my gosh.
No, because of my back.
Oh,
I just don't do roller coasters. I do Disney attractions.
That's what I'm saying. You go from a Disney, mild type stuff to something a little more dramatic. Crazy.
My wild and crazy rides that I love is like It's a Small World.
Yeah, it's pretty scary stuff. I mean, those dolls, ooh, it gets you. But I know
took the kids to Belmont Park.
Yeah, when I rode it with them, and I realized, oh my goodness. This thing, I know it's 100 years old, but it's very much designed in a time when they didn't have computers and didn't have like, ways to figure out the geometry and things like that. Where compared to the Knott's Berry Farm wooden roller coaster, even though they look kind of similar, like the Knott's is like super smooth and they figured it out, because they got computers and stuff back, now versus back then. But it was so much fun. I went down there for that, hung out with the kids, and Mason's been doing baseball. He's in Little League and he's doing great. He loves doing. He's so excited. He comes home, practices, goes to practice, goes to the games early, says hi to all the friends when he gets there. He says hi to the coach, like, "Hi, coach, how you doing, buddy?" And he's very, very friendly when he gets to the game. And during those games, we mentioned this before, but Jacob, his older brother, is working the snack bar, and he's like a workaholic.
Yeah, so the kids have been keeping themselves busy and getting themselves. Well, Jacob's been, earning money. Mason's been doing baseball, and you've been holding down the fort like super dad. And what I was amazing and I was so grateful for is here I was gone for 10 days, and I was like, what am I going to come home to? What's the house going to be like? Is it going to be a disaster? And I was very pleasantly surprised that the house was spotless and the housekeeper hadn't even come. So
that's what I do, baby. You're welcome.
No, it's not what you do. But thank you for being conscientious enough to know that when I came home, it would be really nice to come home to a clean house. So what's interesting is while I was gone, the first wedding I was gone for, my team had another wedding they were doing here. So I had to fly in a team member from my old business partner from Fresno to be the lead on the wedding down here while I was up in Camarillo. So you also hosted company here, which I know you didn't really see each other much because she was working the whole time. But we had our first double wedding weekend. And then, all in the midst of all of this, we're getting ready for Ezekiel to graduate from high school.
No way.
In 3.5 weeks. I can't believe it. Dude had prom last night and
he loved it. I saw the photos and the video. He looked had a blast.
Good. He picked out his outfit, and when I was up, because I was in Fresno for the wedding that I did last weekend, I didn't get to see him, but I did run errands. Like I had him leave things that he needed me to do. So I took his whole outfit to the cleaners. I ordered him a bow tie. I got his boutonniere ordered. I went and I rented the limo bus for him and his friends. And
limo bus?
Yeah, party bus for him and his friends. And it's just something that I really wanted to do. And, my mentality is our kids are really good I mean, sometimes they get sassy with us, but in general, there could be so many things that they are into that they're not. And our boys are they're good boys. And I love it when we can affirm that and reward it. And so, Zeke has friends at high school that are partiers and stuff like that. And he doesn't affiliate with that very closely. He's, really connected now with his church youth group. It's a decision that he's been making. And I just really wanted him to have the full high school experience because he has worked so hard, maintained good grades. He's already registered for community college. And it's just like, I just was so happy for him to be able to go to prom. He didn't want to take a date. He just wanted to go with some guy friends.
Oh, yeah. Keep your options open. I get that. Yeah.
No, but he wore an all black suit with a white dress shirt and his red and white Air Jordans and a cowboy hat, which I bought for him a while back. And he wanted a bow tie because his favorite comedian, Steve Byrne, wears a bow tie when he does his comedy show. So he wanted to do that. And then I ordered him a boutonniere with a white rose and a red ribbon to go with his shoes. And then he had his really cool sunglasses. He looked so good. And he was sending me videos from throughout the night just on cloud 9 and so happy. And so, I've been helping him get ready for his graduation. We got his announcements. I've been making his graduation party announcements. And so, overall in the Kris and Kristine Show household outside of the studio, things have been super busy. And so what I appreciate is that we responded to the needs of our kids and our schedules. And we just, said, well, we can do podcasting in a couple of weeks. But for right now, we just needed to focus on keeping everything running for the household and not overstressing me while I was traveling so that we can come back and be super excited to record this new episode, right?
That's right. Fantastic.
So anything else been happening that's new for you, Kris, with work?
Well, if you mean like podcasting stuff, my clients I have that I do a podcast for, that I create, we actually got them to sign another 6-month contract.
That's so exciting.
It's very exciting.
Not another. The last one was 3 months. So you upgraded them to a 6-month contract. And we met someone today. We're not going to say the name, but we met someone today in the business community that's pretty prominent business name in San Diego.
Let's just say they own one of the biggest companies in town.
Well, they own franchises, but is interested in your services. And I'm just so proud of you. I was like, that all happened because I was bragging about you because I heard him like making announcements at the place where we were at. And then he stopped by where we were and checking in, just, how you folks doing? And I was like, you would be great for our podcast. You would be a great guest. And then we started talking and I was like, I got to brag on my honey.
Well, you have to talk about it, get to our agent and have them, get that all figured out with that stuff. So
yeah, definitely.
But this week we have a fantastic guest coming to us all the way from the country of Israel. Have you ever been to Israel, babe?
You know what? I have not. My parents have, but this is somebody that's going to help us talk about, like empowerment and leadership development. And we're going to be back with her right after this.
Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Kristine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic VIP guest. She focuses on women's empowerment and is a podcaster just like us. Welcome to the show, Limor Bergman Gross.
Hi, Kris and Kristine. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Hey, Limor, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic.
We're doing fabulous. It's so in California, it is Sunday morning right now, but where in the world are you coming to us from?
So I'm in Israel where it's right now night. It's after 9 p.m.
On Sunday as well?
On Sunday as well.
Yeah, they are actually 9 hours ahead of us, Kristine.
Yeah. So is there anything that we should know? Like the world is still in existence at 9 p.m. at night. Has there been any exciting things happening today? Like, should we invest in real estate or anything since you're ahead of us?
I'll tell you what is happening right now. We have the finals of the Israeli Ninja.
What is that?
Do you watch the Ninja show? I don't know how it's called. And not Ninja, sorry. What
I think like American Ninja, where you like the acrobat?
American Ninja, exactly. So we have the local one. That's the 5th season. Extremely popular here in Israel. I'm a fan. And the finals, they actually split it to 2 episodes. And the finals are broadcasted while we speak.
Look at that.
That's amazing. So it's like a big show over there for you all?
Yes. And I'm sacrificing that to talk to 2 of you.
Oh, well, we must feel very special. Now, do you guys have like a DVR where you guys can record that, right?
Yeah. Everything is actually we watch TV right now. Everything is like over the web. So we have like this small device, like an Apple TV device.
Oh, yeah.
That basically watch TV with apps, and everything is automatically recorded and you can watch later. So actually I'm going to watch it without all the commercials.
Oh, that's fantastic. Even better.
Hey, you guys get YouTube out there, right?
Yeah.
I think YouTube just started their own broadcast system. I think they are playing sports on it too.
YouTube TV?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, my parents have it at their house here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's very interesting, but sometimes it does have commercials that are baked into it.
But it's like live broadcasting, but through YouTube, I guess.
Yeah. So where in Israel are you located? Are you in a metropolis or in a smaller town area?
So I'm in a city called Ra'anana, which is north of Tel Aviv, not very far. You can consider it as a suburb of Tel Aviv.
Okay. Now, I've never traveled to Israel. Of course,
No, I think you have.
No, but, growing up, you learn a lot about the history. I was a history teacher, so you learn a lot about the history of the region. So in the city that you live, is it a pretty modern city or does it have a lot of historical architecture there?
It's, I would say, pretty modern. We just celebrated 100 years, which is not considered a lot in Israel for a place.
Right.
So I would say it's pretty modern. It's not, 100 years, that's the oldest you can get.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now,
well, how old is Israel's way older than that, right? Israel's got to go back from the beginning.
Beginning of time.
Yeah, so you can see actually a lot of history and a lot of, I like archaeology. So we just spent yesterday in a wonderful tour in a place that has ancient caves. It's a tomb caves.
Oh, wow.
So basically they used to bury important people there, and it's like from between 1600 years to 2000 years ago.
Oh,
no
wow.
way.
That's amazing. Was it pretty interesting to go through those caves?
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like an underground city, basically, of caves, and probably they discovered only a fraction of it.
No way. You got to call Indiana Jones up. Get up in there.
Yeah, for sure. Indiana Jones was a big hit here, by the way.
Oh, really?
I was a huge fan back in the days.
Oh, yeah. I bet.
Now, Limor, have you always lived in Israel or did you spend any time abroad?
I spent 9 years in the US, actually, between end of 2010 to end of 2019. We moved to Colorado.
Oh, wow.
From my husband employer, and we stayed in Colorado and then moved to Texas. And we got back here 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so Texas versus Israel, which one has more cows?
What?
Isn't the cattle industry big in Texas?
I would think so.
Everything
Cowboys.
is big in Texas.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, so you've been back since 2019. What is it that you do for a living in Israel?
So I'm an executive coach mainly for women in tech leadership roles.
Wow. So is Kristine.
Well, I'm an executive coach, but not in the tech industry. But that's super fascinating. Have you been in the tech industry and around the tech industry for very long?
Yes, I have. I mean, I started my career as a software engineer, and I've been in tech for over 20 years. I grew into leadership positions, and that's actually what I did up until 3 years ago when I decided to basically focus on my passion to support other women and help other women advance to executive roles.
That's super fascinating. So thinking of being a software engineer, I don't come across, even to this day, very many women that are software engineers. Did you have a very good network of women that were software engineers when you were starting out your career?
Not at all. So it started obviously when I went to university, and I remember till this day, the first day of university, and I had the first class. Actually, it was a math, maybe it was calculus. I don't even remember which one, but it was math class. And it was an auditorium of around 400 people. Wow. And there were very, very few women in the room. And I sat next to one of them, and we became besties. Uh-huh. But there were very few women. You can count them on both hands.
What inspired you to become a software engineer?
It's not very exciting, I would say. I mean, I just at high school, I was very good at math and other STEM-related, fields like chemistry and physics. It came very easy to me. And I figured, well, it just makes sense to study computer science. It's a good profession. It's nice. I mean, I did some coding in high school, and I took a coding class when I was in the military service. And I said, well, sounds interesting. So why not just go and study it? And it's a good profession. You make good money.
Oh, nice. Good money. It's always a driving factor for most jobs, I would think.
Right.
Definitely.
So you mentioned military service. Was that something that's required in Israel for young women, or was that voluntary?
It's mandatory.
Oh, wow.
In Israel, both for men and women.
No way.
And there are exceptions, but in general, it's a mandatory service.
Now, when it's mandatory like that, what age do you find out you're going to be going into service?
You go after high school when you're 18 plus. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the role you're doing, but back then it was 2 years for women and 3 years for men. It's changing because women have started to also attend combat units. It wasn't in my times. Actually, it was a big deal here in Israel. That women wanted to be combat, in combat units. They wanted to fly jets. They want to do everything men do. And they're doing wonderful. So for women who go to combat units, they serve more.
Oh, okay. That's super interesting. I know that in the U.S., they don't have mandatory military service, but I do know that over the last few years, there have been a lot of conversations about whether or not women are going to be allowed to enter into combat on the front lines. And it's been a big discussion. It seems like you've been a leader in the space of women's empowerment and women's rights, though. When did that start for you?
It was gradual. So I started my career as a software engineer, and I was, for the most part, the only woman in the room. I didn't work with many women around me. Not that there were none, but not many. And many times there wasn't someone to look up to at the top. Mm-hmm. Women or people of color or any kind of diversity. And when I grew my career, I mean, it wasn't always easy, and I had to push myself forward and fight for what I deserved. And I had to fight a lot of my own, thoughts, whether I'm capable or not, just because being a minority is not easy.
Right.
And I think that when I started to lead larger organizations and team, I try to make a difference. I try to hire more women. I try to give women more opportunities. I try to help women who were not pushing themselves to push themselves forward. So gradually, it became more and more apparent to me that this is a life mission that I should pursue.
So having experiences of being in your career in Israel and in the United States, did you find it more challenging to promote when you were in Israel or in the United States?
I don't think I found much differences, to be honest. I didn't feel like it was harder or easier here than in the US. I felt pretty similar, to be honest.
So you think that diversity in corporate roles, really, whether it's in Israel or the United States, they still have the same issues and same problems?
In high level, yes. I think that maybe what is different that in the US, there are different kind of minority groups than in Israel. So in Israel, for example, you could be Muslims versus Jews. They could be, women that are very ultra-Orthodox Haredi women. Mm-hmm. So there are different kind of minorities. Whether in the US, there would be people of color, or there will be people from South America or from other Latina, cultures. So there will be maybe different minority groups, but in essence, it's not much different.
Right, yeah.
I was wondering about that because you mentioned being part of a minority group. Did you, or do you identify as part of a minority group in Israel, or are you considered part of the majority?
I mean, women in Israel are about 50% of the population. Mm-hmm. But I think, and what I want to see is to see that kind of, numbers also at executive roles in tech, and not just in tech. Mm-hmm. The problem is that although women are about 50% of the population, you don't see that representation in executive roles and C-suite.
I would agree with that. My doctoral dissertation that I did was in the field of education, looking at the underrepresentation of Latinas, so women of Latin descent that are represented in higher level leadership positions in school districts. And it's very interesting what comes into play to prevent women from getting into those roles. Some of it is external, some of it is because of the system itself, but a lot of it has to do also with women seeing themselves as successful in that role and battling imposter syndrome. Is that something that you see with those that you coach?
Absolutely. And you hit basically the nail on the head. That's exactly where I specialize. So what I'm trying to do is to help women change their internal way of thinking, their behaviors, and push themselves forward. And obviously, as you mentioned, there are different factors, there are biases, there are, different challenges. I'm trying to make a difference on the women themselves.
So is this something that you do one-on-one, or do you do like corporate coaching, like group coaching with women all together? What's your format?
Mostly one-on-one. I also do group coaching. So I do both, but I would say majority right now is one-on-one.
And so with tackling imposter syndrome, how would you go about that? So let's say that you and I were working together and you noticed that I was struggling with imposter syndrome. What would be those first steps of trying to help me overcome it?
Yeah, so I think it depends on where you're at, meaning that for many women, I notice very early in our relationship a lot of confidence issues, and I try to help them see their strength, their values. So I would go around, identifying strength, maybe getting some feedback from others about strength. If I see that someone is very inconfident, I would focus only on strength. If I see someone more confident, I will also try to get feedback on improvement areas. And then, trying to work on limiting beliefs and what is holding that woman back, and trying to break those limiting beliefs and challenge. And I always challenge, and the amount of challenge really depends on the individual. If I see that someone is really struggling, I will try to make very, very small steps forward for example, I had a woman that was dreading even asking for days off. So I try to adapt myself to what the woman needs from me and push her on the pace that is right for her.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Hey, Limor, I was going to ask you about your work week in Israel. Is it the same as it is here in the United States with the 40-hour, 5-day, typical 8-hour day kind of job, or you guys are on some other format?
In general, yes. Our work week is Sundays to Thursday, and we don't work on Friday and Saturday. Obviously, because I own my own business, I kind of work different hours, very flexible schedule.
But for the regular folks, like,
For the majority, I would say yes. But I can tell you that I posted an article a few years back about, I called it the death of the 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah?
Because I believe that this is something that eventually will be eliminated, at least in some sectors. And I was talking mostly on the tech sector. Because the thing is that I started working fully remote since 2016. I always work with people internationally, with people with different, from different countries. And when you work in the tech industry and you work with so many people from different countries, different time zones, it's really hard to limit your work hours to a specific schedule.
Right, yeah.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. And I was wondering about that. As we've seen the majority of companies have to at least experiment with some type of remote work because of COVID, do you find that women have had more success in promoting through remote work, or has it set us back?
I think it's a blessing. It's a blessing for everyone, and for women even more so. I can share personally that as a mother of 4, when I started my career and started a family, the working word was more traditional, like you mentioned, Kris, like the 9 to 5, and in office. Actually, in Israel, it was more 10 to 6 or 10 to 7 with calls during the night, because I worked for many years with California, so I always was on calls late at night. And as a working mother, I had to sacrifice something. And because my career was important for me, I sacrificed a lot of things related to my kids. I always had nannies. My kids stayed at a daycare, and then someone picked them up, whether it was grandparents or babysitters.
Right.
And I only showed up at home like at 6 or 7 p.m. And in 2016, it all changed because I started working from home in a company that trusted their employees. And it allowed me to do things I never done before, to pick up my kids from school, to attend school events, to go to meet with a teacher at 10 a.m. if I needed to, and to be present while not sacrificing my career and not sacrificing my work, because I was able to be flexible. And if I needed to work during the night, I would do that. But it allowed me the flexibility. And I think that remote work for women, and not just women, for parents, for caregivers, is a blessing because it provides a lot of flexibility.
I totally agree with that. So when COVID hit, so I work in education administration, which is typically like the most classic, 8 to 5 kind of version. It's not even 9 to 5. It's 8 to 5 for us, or 8 to 6, because when children are in school, we have to be working to be able to support the schools and the school districts. But when we transitioned because of COVID, for the first time, my employer agreed to remote work. And what's interesting is I had a female friend who she had a child in 2019 and was experiencing some health challenges and had to be on bed rest. And on her behalf, I lobbied human resources and I said, can we create a remote working policy, because she's fully capable mentally to do the work. She just has to be in a bed to be able to, rest for the well-being of her child. And they were like, absolutely not. We don't do remote work. Our work isn't cut out for it. And she gave birth. And then 5 months later, COVID hit and they didn't have the option. And now we've been working remote for over 3 years, and there's talk of, allowing us to stay remote at least 3 days a week, kind of for the indefinite future. And it's interesting how what was seen as not okay and wasn't possible is now the new norm. Have you found that that's happened for a lot of companies where they just are kind of keeping some type of remote operations?
Absolutely. And again, I'm talking about the tech industry. Mm-hmm. Most companies here have a hybrid model where they want people to come to the office. Depends on the company. Some companies say once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, but they allow hybrid model. And it's going to be very difficult for companies to mandate going back to the 5 days in the office. I know that Amazon said that they enforce employees to go back to the offices. I think eventually people, and now we're in an economic, I would say, situation. I don't know how to call it, but, obviously
it's
a lot of companies are.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of companies are cutting, headcounts and so forth. But eventually, when economy will go up again, I think we'll see people that will leave a job if it does not allow hybrid model, at least.
So you've been doing remote work since 2016, you said. Do you have any idea what possibly could be some of the bad sides of working from remote?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, it's about building connections with people. It is much harder to do when you work remote, especially, if you hire new people. It's not people that you used to work with for years and you know them already, and then all of you go remote. But when you actually hire people and create, new teams, when people are not next to each other, it's harder to create a level of trust that you can when people actually go to the office and they meet each other and they go out for lunch and so forth.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So
definitely that's one of the downsides. And also another thing is about communication, which is harder when you're remote. When you're in the office, you can just go to someone and ask them a question. And when you're from home, you need to, send an instant message or whatever. And some people don't feel comfortable to interrupt.
Right. So with that being said, when we think about women in the workplace, one of the things that I've noticed is that when women are trying to promote, one of the best ways of supporting them is through mentorship. How do you see mentorship working in a remote or a hybrid setting for women to be able to promote within their companies?
Yeah, I think mentorship should be offered to everyone, to be honest. I mean, I'm a great believer in mentorship. It helped me a lot. I wish I had more mentors. And to be honest, I started mentoring in 2017 and I do it all remote. So I cannot even imagine how it's done in person anymore because I'm just doing it remote. Mm-hmm. And I coach women worldwide. So for me, it's like a second nature to do it remote. I don't see why it cannot happen. I love mentorship. I think it's great. It allows someone to get an external perspective, a sounding board, and a lot of confidence in herself.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things I've wondered is what's the difference between, or how does a person draw the line between like mentorship and ending up becoming the person's therapist? Because I found in some situations, women like to vent a lot in mentoring situations. So how do you hold appropriate boundaries in mentorship?
Absolutely. And I would say it's even more complex than that. There is mentorship, there is coaching, and there is therapy. Mm-hmm. And the lines between them are kind of, sometimes blurry. So I would see as mentorship as someone, who comes with a lot of experience, a lot of times share experiences. And a coach is someone who is pushing you forward and helping you find your own answers. And a therapist that obviously helps you emotionally. I think that what I'm doing is kind of a combination of the three, although I'm not a therapist and I don't have any kind of degree in that. But we cannot ignore the emotional state. And sometimes people need to vent when it all becomes around venting or around, the emotional side. if I identify a situation when I believe someone may need support that I cannot provide, maybe a therapist, then I would raise that. I wouldn't tell them go to a therapist or look for a psychologist or whatever, but I would raise that maybe you need additional help from someone. And I would try to focus our conversations on what we can do together and how can I help.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you find that women that seek out mentorship and coaching are more introverted or extroverted?
I would say probably more towards the introverted side, because women who are, and in general, people who are extroverted usually will have less difficulties championing for themselves, speaking out, building the connections. And introverted will be usually more waiting for someone to notice them.
Mm.
Oh, that's very interesting. You say that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember in the book Lean In, I think it was by Sheryl Sandberg, and she was talking about, women finding their voice in the workplace. And she had that big campaign about opposing the word bossy. And so I was wondering if you support women in helping to find their voice and speaking up without being perceived as aggressive or bossy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is one of the biases against women. When a woman is assertive, she sometimes is considered aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, now the men probably take that the wrong way, I would think, right?
Yeah, and this is the side where companies and not just the men, to be honest, but in general, companies and organizations need to accept the fact that women should stand for themselves, and being assertive is not the same as being aggressive. And what I try to do with women, I try to help them with speaking up in a respectful manner, but standing out for themselves.
Okay, well, how do you give an example?
Yeah, so for example, I have a woman who has challenges with her manager that is basically blocking her.
From like promotion or something, or?
From everything. This manager is very centralized. He doesn't want her to talk to anyone else. And we were talking about it, and she tried working with the manager, but it didn't work. Every time she tried to take an initiatives or try to speak with someone else, she's like asking for permission, and that manager says no. And I was, we're talking about, okay, eventually you should be willing to stop being nice. And again, not being impolite, not being aggressive, not being disrespectful, but standing out for yourself. And if you think that you need to speak with someone else, that your manager doesn't like it, so be it. That's okay. Be transparent about it. Say why you are going to talk with whoever, but don't ask for permission.
That makes a lot of sense. And it makes me wonder, as you were talking about that situation, it seemed like a female employee and a male manager. One of the things that I've found to be very intriguing is when you have a woman in leadership that feels threatened by other women that are underneath her. How would you have a woman navigate when they have a female manager who's, I guess, offering or inflicting the oppression in the workplace?
Yeah, and that can happen both with women and men. I believe of being transparent, first of all, and confront the situation. Basically, a lot of times there's an elephant in the room and no one talks about it. So I recommend just confronting. Again, when I say confronting, is not meaning fighting or shouting or doing anything aggressive, but just saying to that person what you see and what you need to happen. I always also recommend to look at the other person and try to think why they are doing what they're doing and what do they need. Because a lot of time is serving confidence issues. It's serving them feeling, as you said, threatened. Sometimes it's their own insecurities. So trying to understand the other person and see how you can address their needs, but still be able to progress.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in terms of like trying to navigate. It's so complex, this dance of leadership, especially for women. I mean, Kris, we've been talking for a while. Do you find that men experience challenges in trying to promote too, or do you feel like it's more women?
I would say it's probably about the same, because there are guys that struggle with promotion, myself included, but I've also not really seeked promotion, so that's probably the reason why. But I can see there's probably situations where guys have really thought that they should be promoted and they get overlooked because somebody's a big kiss butt and they kiss butt their way to the top. Do you ever see that, Limor, with people trying to schmooze their way to the top?
Yeah, I've seen multiple things. I've seen people trying to schmooze their way to the top. I've seen people pushing themselves to the top, right? Being very assertive. To be honest, some people I manage even threatened. I mean, in a way that they said, oh, if you don't promote me, I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. So different people are taking different tactics.
Yeah, I've heard the one where it's like, this other company is going to offer me X salary, and if you guys can't match that, peace out, I'm out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's obviously not the most productive approach if you're trying to preserve your job. So what are your recommendations for people that are looking for a promotion at work, whether they're men or women? How do they go about getting it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, you should work with your manager always to get feedback and to build a plan for your promotion. It shouldn't be like something that, oh, now I need a promotion. It should be discussed in advance as much as possible with your manager, with your HR, understanding what's the next level, what's the expectations from you, what are the gaps, and how. Your manager is responsible for that. That's the part of their responsibility to support you and your growth. And the other thing I would say is I always recommend people to operate already at the next level. So I have actually a man I'm coaching right now, not a woman. Mm-hmm. And that man want to eventually go and be a group manager or whatever. I don't remember exactly what the title is called at that company. And I told him, listen, think about what a group manager does and what you can start doing today. And it doesn't mean stepping on your manager's toes. What I meant is taking initiatives, doing things that are above and beyond your responsibilities, prove that you're already operating at that level.
Okay. So basically, yeah, I get you. So you're saying try to be already at that level already, even though your real role isn't quite there yet, but you're trying to walk the talk, I guess, or walk it.
Absolutely. Yes. And again, it's not stepping on someone else's toes, but it's like operating at a different level, thinking more strategically, doing things that maybe your next level would do.
So you just triggered a thought for me. So when I was earlier in my education career, I didn't have any mentors, and all of a sudden one of the leads of our school district, for some reason, singled me out to coach me, and he wanted to see me promote to be a school principal. And the phrase that he used with me that I think reflects what you're saying is he called it managing up. He told me I needed to manage up. And when I asked him what that meant, he said, you need to exist as if you're in that role already and elevate your thinking to start embodying those characteristics. So the confidence in leadership, the ability to make decisions without being disrespectful. But he used that phrase, and that's something that I've tried to carry with me throughout my career that I think has helped me to be pretty successful, is this manage up kind of concept. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, although usually when I use the managing up phrase, I mean something different.
Okay.
I mean usually manage your manager, but yes, I completely agree with you. And personally, I can share that when I was, when I wanted to be promoted to the next level or to expand my responsibilities, I always thought about, okay, how can I prove that I can actually do it? And took initiatives and showed confidence in my manager that I'm capable.
That makes a lot of sense. And, one of the things that I'm reflecting on is I don't know how many companies actually have a structure to coach their people on how to aspire into leadership. So how could you come alongside a company to teach them how to train up their employees so that they see themselves as leaders?
I think it's multiple things probably, and it depends on the company. First of all, something more generic is, as I mentioned, right? Trying to, first of all, create clear role definitions, clear expectations of what expectations are from a person filling a role. Because I've seen that over and over again in multiple companies, that the role definitions are not very clear and people are not clear of what is expected from them to be promoted. So at the company level, at the HR level, I would do that first to make sure that everyone is clear on what is expected from a person at each level.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, do you get a lot of people that try to say, that's not my job to do, so don't be asking me to do that? Do you get a lot of, how do you handle that kind of stuff between different levels?
What do you mean that's not my job?
Okay. You'll get, especially in my career and careers I've had, is that somebody will ask you to do something and they say, well, that's not my job.
Or that's outside of my job description?
Exactly.
Oh.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think with that kind of response, if I was the manager of that person, an alarm will go in my head thinking, okay, what's the motivation of this person? Because someone who says that's not my job, I would try to understand why they're saying that. Are they demotivated? Or maybe they are kind of people that likes very clear definitions of what their role is and they need to operate between those definitions. So I think I would try first to understand why the person is saying what they're saying and try to influence them to think bigger. But I don't take into account that, basically I take into account that each person is different and think differently.
Right. But what I was saying is that, like you're saying, like different, if your parameters of your job are this and that, and they're asking you to do something that's outside those parameters, and you're like, well, wait a second, you hired me to do these tasks. My role at this company is to do this and this. It's not to do that. So now I'm confused now. Are you trying to move my job around? Are you trying to move my title? Are you trying to move my spot? You're confusing me as the employee. Now I'm totally confused. What am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to do this or that? I don't even know.
Yeah. That's a great example. I think in that case, if the employee is confused, they need to sit with their manager and do expectation matching of what is expected from them in the role and what is expected from them if they want to move up the ladder.
You're giving me an epiphany right now. I'm thinking, goodness, after this conversation is over, I think I need to go and email my bosses. So in all transparency, I've been wrestling. I've been in the same organization for almost 8 years, and we've just had a leadership change because of some complications that I can't get into, but it's a good change. So we have a new leader that's in charge of our organization or at least our division. And I have been trying to promote and been asking to promote and have been hitting the glass ceiling for, 5 years. And so now I'm thinking, maybe I need to take the initiative and email my supervisors and say, I'd love to talk with you about what it's going to take for me to be able to promote, and having that explicit conversation, especially now that I've built a good relationship with our new leadership, who knows that I've been held back for a while. I think it would give me that confidence to just say, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm operating. What would it look like for you from your perspective, for me to get ready for that next level of promotion? What would I need to accomplish? I think being explicit would be really helpful for me.
Great. Yeah. And by the way, I usually recommend when people approach me with, oh, how would I ask for a promotion or how would I start a conversation? Usually I recommend starting the conversation with asking for feedback.
Oh, that's a good one.
So like, how am I doing right now at this role I have right now? What are your thoughts on how I am? Like that?
Asking for real feedback about how you operate today, about both the things you're doing well, and what are the things that maybe either you're overlooking or you need to do better. And that can open up the discussion about, okay, what would it take for me to go to the next level?
So that's scary for me because I'm always worried that it's going to be like a catch-22 situation where I ask for feedback and then all of a sudden I find out I've been doing horribly. I had this one experience when I was 19 years old. I was an intern for a state senator and I thought I was doing great. I got great feedback from the senator. And right before I finished my internship, I sat down with the chief of staff and I asked for feedback, and it was that she wished I would have done more. And here I thought I was doing great the whole time. So how do you help people overcome that fear of feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, by the way, if that happens, it means that your manager is not doing their job. Because I always believed that those feedback discussions should not be a surprise. When something happens, good or bad, your manager should give you timely feedback, both when you're doing good things and both when you're maybe overlooking something. And if you dread something, it means that you need to do it. That's also my belief. And starting small, and the more you do it, the more you'll feel comfortable with it. Asking for feedback is hard when you are, maybe in your case, you are a little bit traumatized. I would use the word traumatized. I know it's a strong word, but because it's really traumatic when you think you're doing a great job and then all of a sudden someone tells you not.
Right. That's exactly what it felt like.
Well, you're kind of surprised because you were thinking you're doing great, but then you find out you're not. So,
Right. It gives you like trauma around feedback in general. And it was at a young, impressionable age. And it was my first experience with getting feedback. And so I think that that's kind of, if you and I were coaching together, I'd say like, hey, Limor, can you help me figure out how to overcome the trauma of receiving feedback from my supervisors? Because I think, as I'm reflecting, I don't ask for feedback a lot because I actually don't want to hear what they say in case it's bad.
Yeah, so I would ask you, what would make you less intimidating? Maybe not with your manager, but maybe think about a case where you can ask feedback from someone about something. What would be a small step forward you can take in receiving feedback that will make you feel less intimidating? So
like saying a small project or a small kind of a thing, not like the overall arch of your entire role of the company, but like something like a small thing you did. Like how was the thing I just did? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it could be something like that. Or it could be asking maybe for feedback from peers or for someone you feel more comfortable with. So I always believe in gradually taking small steps forward. So if asking for, how am I doing in this role from your manager is really intimidating, try to do a small step forward.
Yeah, from like a peer, like that's not too threatening, like your buddy. Like, hey, what do you think I did on this job? You think pretty cool? Yeah, that's great. I love it. Yeah, I get that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super helpful because I think that I do start off with the tell me how I'm doing overall versus like, let's start with this one specific project and, let's talk about that. And I think also for so many people, overcoming feedback as feeling like it's a personal reflection on you as a human versus on the work. Like, I feel like when I'm asking for feedback, I assign so much value in how the other person perceives me versus like separating it as this is feedback on a job versus feedback on me as a human.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that even if you did something, not the best way, or even if someone gave you constructive feedback, it doesn't reflect on you. It just reflects on what you did, and it's an opportunity to improve. So practicing getting constructive feedback will help you grow. And try to find opportunities to do it.
Always,
small scale.
Always try to find ways to improve. I always look for ways to improve everything I do, especially the podcasting stuff here. I always try to make sure the best way to do things. And if I do that, I try to find a better way to do it and keep on growing.
Absolutely. So speaking of podcasting, Limor, we hear that you have recently entered into the podcasting space. Can you tell us a little bit about your brand new podcast that you've been producing?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I started a new podcast called From a Woman to a Leader. And that podcast is dedicated to discussing women's unique challenges in the tech industry, especially women in tech leadership. And women I'm interviewing, I'm asking them to provide actionable tips to help other women overcome those challenges in their careers in the tech industry. So far, I did 3 interviews. One is not published yet. So the first one was about fixing the broken rung. The second one was about setting smart goals. And the next interview that I'm going to publish soon is about growing from a mid-level manager to an executive.
Nice.
So I'm trying to bring women in different roles and help other women step up.
That sounds amazing. And so how many episodes have you released now?
So far, just 3, and I'm going to release the 4th soon.
Oh, nice.
That's amazing. And so where are you streaming currently?
You mean where am I publishing the podcast? I'm using
where can people
Spotify.
find it?
I'm using Spotify right now.
Okay, nice.
It was called Anchor, and now they changed it to podcasters, Spotify.com.
Yeah, it was Anchor. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Yeah. Are you planning on moving on over to Apple?
I think it's automatically streamed so I connected it to Apple and to Spotify and to Amazon and Google.
Those are the big ones right there. I think, I always say, like, if you're going to put it in just 2 places, I say Apple and Spotify, probably the number 2. Because, like, if everybody has an iPhone, they're on Apple, they use Apple. And people who have an Android are on Spotify. Out of curiosity, are you Android or Apple?
I'm an Apple all over.
There you go. Now we're talking. But I did hear that a lot of the European countries, I don't think you guys would be considered European country, but I heard over there, a lot of them are using Android versus Apple. Like, it's the majority of the phones are Android users. But so
in Israel, like, I would say Android is more popular.
Okay.
Because Apple products are very expensive.
Okay.
But I'm an Apple fan, so everything is Apple.
I know. We moved. Kristine finally got me to switch over to a MacBook Pro from an old PC I've been using for decades. In fact, we started our podcast on the old PC. It's still here in the tomb. We keep it in over here.
PC stands for a piece of something else.
Piece of crap.
But we are definitely Mac users. I mean, it's definitely been a journey for us as well. But we're excited to hear about your new podcast and that you're getting out there with your message, because as you were saying that you're coaching individuals in more of a one-on-one setting, I think that the podcast platform is going to give you the opportunity to share some of those more universal lessons that women can use. And there is a need for this in the space, because you're right, women are facing so many challenges in being able to overcome imposter syndrome and those self-limiting beliefs that are keeping them from reaching their full potential.
Yes, and I want to give the stage for those women who made it and got to leadership roles to help others and to have others listen to them and believe it's possible for themselves as well.
Absolutely. Now, Limor, you mentioned that your mentoring and your coaching is an international business. So for our listeners that are hearing about what you do and thinking that they could benefit from your services, how can they reach out to you and consult with you to see if you would be a good match to work with them?
Sure. I would say the best place would be LinkedIn. Just type Limor Bergman and you'll find me. And there's a link on my profile to book an introductory session with me. Nice. And I like to point actually people to LinkedIn rather to my website, just because that's where I post all the content.
Okay,
and
nice.
People should get to know me better before they even want to talk to me.
Right. I'll put a link to that LinkedIn in the links in the
link in the LinkedIn and the links in our notes.
The show notes. Yeah, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Absolutely. And so if anybody doesn't, for some reason, have a LinkedIn profile, how else can they reach out to you?
So they can just go to my website, limorbergman.com, and there is a contact me form, and they can just fill it out, and I'll get back to them.
Awesome.
That sounds amazing. So listeners, if you have piqued your curiosity, whether you're a woman or a man, and you feel like learning more about Limor's services are something for you, definitely reach out to her on LinkedIn through her website and subscribe to that podcast. And tell us again what the name of that podcast is.
It's called From a Woman to a Leader.
Wonderful. And so subscribe to From a Woman to a Leader, and definitely leave those 5-star reviews, because we know that that makes a huge difference for up and coming podcasts. And so, Limor, do you have any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
I would just say, go and conquer the world. Believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, find others who believe in yourself more than you do, and that help you.
Nice.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And we wish you all of the best as you continue your leadership journey.
Thank you both. It was a pleasure.
Enjoy listening to podcasts and ever wonder, can I make a podcast? But it seems so complicated, and good audio production can take time. What if there was a way to create an amazing podcast easily? Well, now there is. Introducing Podcasting Made Easy from Podtastic Audio. My production team will handle your entire audio production, allowing you to be the star of your show. This is Podcasting Made Easy. How easy? Well, so easy, you don't even have to press record. Now that's easy. Your listeners are waiting. Let's deliver. Sign up for a free strategy call today at podcasticaudio.com/easy.
Well, Limor was super fascinating, and I love talking with her about women's empowerment and leadership development, and just in general, seeing yourself as more successful in the workplace.
That is always the goal with everybody, to be more successful, I would think,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would hope, but some people don't, but you know.
And, I've thought of what it would be like if I had a coach, like a leadership coach outside of my workplace, separate from my business, but related to my full-time job. And I wonder how things would be different for me if I had somebody coaching me like that. Would I be more direct? Would I be more soft around the edges? Because I just find that sometimes I'm a little bit too intense for people. I was thinking about this as things have been happening in my career, and there were some dicey situations happening, and I find myself consistently being the one speaking up against bad situations and then getting called out or singled out because of it. And I was thinking this as I was getting ready this morning, is why is it that I feel the need to be the voice that speaks out when things are unethical? And I don't know what it is where I'm I can't just let that go, whatever it is. If somebody's not doing the right thing, why can't I just let it go like so many other people? And I wonder what that is. Maybe it's just because I was raised with integrity. And, you and I were talking about this the other day about having the inability to lie. You're a very, very honest person, even when it's uncomfortable for me.
And you said it's too honest sometimes.
Yes, too honest sometimes. And, I think I have a little bit more tact when it comes to honesty. But
I think what gets you lying with me is I think it's the whole lying to make yourself sound better than you really are. Just be who you are. That's the thing I don't understand.
The difference is if your wife comes out and says, "Hey, honey, how do I look in this outfit?" You'll do the pause well, do you have something else you could wear? I'm okay, Chris, That's not what I'm looking for. At least I have a little bit of a filter with that. Be like, yeah, it's really nice. I wonder if you were to tweak this, and this, if it would look even better.
Same thing.
No, it's the approach is different. But I was thinking back to like professionally, having integrity in the workplace is so important, but also speaking the truth is important, and also not burning bridges. And so I wonder, maybe it's because I'm still young enough in my career. I mean, I can't claim that very much longer. I'm in my 40s already. But
what? You are? I thought you were 29.
I know. But I wonder how things would be different if I had a coach that helped me figure out how to deliver information in a way that doesn't make people defensive. Because for me, I'm just like, well, this is wrong and we have to address it. And people don't always like that because they don't want to know that they're wrong.
Oh, nobody. Yes, that's very true. Nobody likes to be told they're wrong. Nobody likes to be told what to do, really, either. If you think about it, when you get to a career level, I think a level like you're at right now, everybody got there because of something, right? They're already at this level. Whether they went 100 years with the company or whether they've got a doctorate like you or whatever it could be. When they get to that level, they just feel like they're just untouchable and you can't tell me what to do.
I don't know if they feel untouchable, but they definitely they feel that they need to be spoken to in a certain way. And, I'm not saying this to point fingers at anyone. I've just been reflecting on a couple of situations that occurred recently. And I don't know, it's been a long career already. I was talking with our financial advisor just on Friday, and we were going over retirement planning and setting up investments and savings and things like that. And we were talking about how much longer I need to go before I can retire. At a minimum, I need to get another 10 years of service in. But age-wise, I'm supposed to go till 57 and a half, which is another 15 years.
So you're saying you retire early?
Well, 57 and a half.
I mean, physically, you can physically and economically, you can retire early.
No, I can leave education fully vested at 30 years. And if I don't have to draw from my retirement until I'm 57 and a half, if I can do something for that 5 year in between time, then I'm not going to mess with all of my good pension. But yeah, it's just a, interesting dynamic right now. Just thinking about what's it going to take to continue to be in my line of service and be effective and be happy. And, it's like that magic recipe is you can be effective and be in your career and be miserable, or you could be happy and be in your career and be ineffective. And so it's like, how do you figure out how to do all the things?
I have no idea, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think we're all still trying to figure out, make the best of whatever situation we have career wise, because, everybody, whatever you do, you are doing something to pays money to do the thing you're doing. And that's kind of a job. And I think you have to think about, is this job making me happy or making me money? And
hopefully it would do both. I mean, it doesn't always. Maybe it doesn't have to make you happy, but does it allow you to preserve your happiness? Because I think sometimes people depend on their job to give them all of their satisfaction, which I'm not trying to do. And I think you're not trying to do. We're not looking at our job as the source of joy and happiness.
Well, there are those who do that.
I know.
They go to their job on their day off.
Oh, that's so crazy.
Oh, yeah. They'll hang out because they got nothing else going on,
I guess. But, we're just going to keep digging into this. And I think that you and I are on this self-seeking journey right now where we have our full-time gig. And then we're like, okay, well, what else could keep us happy and, fulfill us and help us to explore our passions. And so anyways, I'm excited that Limor was on the show today and helped us to really think about that and explore that. And I look forward to hearing about more from some of our upcoming wonderful guests that we have on the show. And getting back on our regular podcasting timeline.
I know, it's like getting back on the bike. You know, it's like pedaling. It's like, hey, honey, I'm gonna take this bike off a jump. No, you haven't ridden in a long time. Just get down the driveway first. Don't be doing jumps.
Exactly. Well, Kris, where can our listeners find out more about us if maybe they're tuning in for the first time today and want to find some of our old episodes?
Well, you can find out all about us and our podcast at KrisandKristineShow.com, and there's a link to it in the show notes of this episode.
And on that website, you can find out more about this podcast. You can find out more about Kris's show, Podtastic Audio. You can also learn more about our podcast consulting services that Kris provides and Kristine Smith Designs, which is our wedding and event planning business. We are just an entrepreneurial couple.
That's right. And don't forget the K2 Media Network.
Yep, absolutely. You can also find out more about our radio station there that Kris produces, and we are just so grateful for all of you and your ongoing support. Here we are wrapping out almost 4 years. We're getting ready to come up on our 4-year mark of this podcast, and we're just so grateful.
Thank you for listening. We appreciate you listening. This has been great.
And we'll be back with you next week.